story is actually everybody thought I was going to go into business. I took a switch and went into engineering. Greensprings is not a school whereby if you're not doing well, you're just not going to do well. It's one that the teachers went the extra mile to ensure that everyone was successful. My name is Gbolabo Odunaiya, and I graduated from Greensprings in the year 2003. Currently, I'm responsible for all manufacturing engineering activities at an electric vehicle startup called Lucid Motors. I started in Greensprings in, I believe it was 1987, either 86 or 87. I had my nursery school there, primary school, then I think I had a small stint in the UK for a couple of years. Then I came back to Greensprings and I went to high school in Greensprings, and I think my year was the year where we eliminated year 12. So my grade was the experimental grade. And we also introduced the boarding house in my year. I spent my entire pre-college time in school at Greensprings, and I actually started at a university in Nigeria for, I think it was like 8 months before I ended up moving to the US, where I went to college at Southern Illinois University. It laid the foundation for everything I do now. The foundation was laid out there in regards to math, physics, chemistry, business studies, economics, etc., etc. And the ratio of teachers to students was it was a very good ratio. I think in my final year, my year 11, I think we ended up having 16 people in the class. So the ratio of teacher to student is a good thing, and I guess it's geared towards people actually learning. You get that more of a one-on-one experience with your teachers. The teachers tend to carry the entire class along. So if one person isn't doing well, they try to ensure that person does well. They can spend extra time with the person just so they can actually understand and move forward. Greensprings is not a school whereby, if you're not doing well, you're just not going to do well. You're just going to stay there. It's one that the teachers, at least from my experience, the teachers went the extra mile to ensure that everyone was successful. I liked all my teachers. Let me give a political answer here. A lot of the teachers who ended up teaching me, Mrs. Okeniyi, Mrs. Malwa, Mr. Egwabon, Mr. Swara. There's a lot of them. Mr. Wanchuku, and the accounting teacher that's late now. I actually really liked physics. Mrs. Ekwalo, she was my physics teacher at the time, and I enjoyed chemistry as well. So Mrs. Malwa. So those are the two classes that I actually enjoyed, and math obviously. But so if I have to give a shout out to any of those teachers, it would be Mrs. Ekwalo, Mrs. Malwa, and Mr. Egwavon / Mr. Swara. Funny story is actually everybody thought I was going to go into business. I'm extremely business minded. Even growing up, I used to do little things to make me money here and there. I was always about that business. So people were like, okay, he's going to go to school, he's going to go for a business, going to go get an MBA, and he'll go work on Wall Street or any one of those places. But I like the whole mechanical aspect of things. I like the way things were built. I particularly liked cars and transportation. So that's how I ended up going into engineering. I graduated college in 2008. So 5 years after I left Nigeria, I graduated college. 4 years after I left Nigeria, I graduated college. Because I graduated from Greensprings in 2004, and I studied industrial and manufacturing engineering. So I have degrees in industrial and manufacturing engineering. Upon graduation, I was fortunate. I had a few job offers, and I was strategic in deciding where I went to work because I knew I wanted to work in the auto industry. So my first job out of college was at a company called Guardian Industries. So Guardian Industries, actually, they manufacture glass, funny enough, for both architectural and automotive. So I worked there for a little bit and I got bored at Guardian Industry. So a company called Oshkosh Defense, they had reached out to me. And they're about to launch a new product, and because I'd applied to Ford, I'd applied to GM. The two closest things to the automotive industry were Guardian Industries and Caterpillar that had given me a job offer at the time. But I took Guardian because number one, it paid more money, and number two, I thought it was more strategic to what I wanted to do. So, anyways, Oshkosh had reached out, and I went for the interview, and literally a day after the interview, I got a job offer. Oshkosh Defense, they manufacture military trucks, ambulances, fire trucks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I ended up in core automotive engineering. I worked there for about 3 years, and Ford finally, after a few years, I kept on applying to Ford because I really wanted to work for Ford Motor Company. Ford finally reached out to me. They finally got hold of my resume and they reached out to me. And but unfortunately, at that time, I was working on a project for Oshkosh in Florida that where I was responsible for actually setting up an entire manufacturing facility. And at that time, this was my first experience, and I wanted to get that under my belt. I think it was a good move. So I told Ford that, look, I want to finish up this project. It's going to take me another 4 months, and they, one way or the other, they agreed. And after working for Ford, then after the project was complete, after I completed that project, I ended up joining Ford Motor Company, where I worked on the F-150, which is the most popular Ford brand. They sell the most of that. I worked on that program for a few years, and I started hearing about a little company in California called Tesla, and funny enough, I used to tell all my friends, Ford was my dream job. That was the job I said, look, when I grow up, I want to be an engineer for Ford. And, Tesla had reached out to me because at that time they were trying to launch the Model S, their electric vehicle. And everybody was like, Tesla, they're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it's different. This is something new. This is good for the environment. This is good for us. So I decided to apply. And they reached out to me. And I remember flying down to California, and I had the interview. And at Tesla, Tesla manufactures electric vehicles. It was a small company, and at that point, Elon, the CEO, actually used to interview most of the engineering functions because the company was so small. So I still recall my interview with him till this day because he didn't want people from the traditional OEMs, automotive companies. He wanted new, bright thinkers. People from Stanford, et cetera, et cetera. But either way, the interview went well. I ended up joining Tesla, and I was responsible for engineering. I was working as a manufacturing engineer there, and we were responsible for launching the Model S as well as the Model X. A few years after Tesla, I worked there for a few years. A company called Lucid. A lot of people had left Tesla. A few people had left Tesla, and they joined this new startup called Lucid. Lucid was fresh, or at that time we were called Ativa, and things were fresh. This was the opportunity to actually start something from the ground up, whereby we can actually do what we call design for manufacturing, and actually design the vehicle to ensure it's manufacturable. A lot of things about the Tesla is, it was designed for looks. But the Lucid has both factors, whereby we've designed it for manufacturing, and it's a beautiful vehicle. So I joined that little company called Ativa at the time. I think I was employee number 249 at the time. I think now we have over 2,500 people, and I've been there for 5 years. I'm in charge of manufacturing So my team is responsible for ensuring the vehicle is designed for manufacturing, meaning we can actually manufacture the vehicle. And my team is responsible for designing the equipment we use to manufacture the vehicle, coming up with the processes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I do. I think I remember one time we had a project at Green Springs where we actually had to create something, and I created my dad helped me out, and we ended up making a periscope. So we went to his office, we welded the periscope up, put the mirrors in there, and that was fun. Me and my brother also talked about doing a magnetic train. So these are some of the projects that while I was at Green Springs actually helped develop me a little more. Of course, I failed classes before. Even at Green Springs, I failed a class. And you just have to pick up the straps, learn from your mistakes, and move forward. No regrets. Even at work, you make design a piece of equipment that might not work. You find out why it didn't work. Why didn't it work? What could I have done better? And the next pass around, you ensure you do it the right way. So learn from your mistakes. Is advice I can give. I tend to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the end of the day, on top of everything, obviously you have to get your basic needs and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's self-actualization. Are you happy with what you do? Are you fulfilled? Is this where you want to be? For example, and that's why I mentioned, my parents didn't force me to go into this route. Some people end up going into medicine because their parents were like, you have to be a doctor. And really, they want to be a musician. Self-actualization is key. If you want to be happy. And I think I've been fortunate that the career path I've chosen has been rewarding. And luckily the career path I've chosen is actually what I wanted to do. Obviously, if somebody decided to go into a career path that's not financially rewarding and they have dependents, it makes it more difficult. But this is what I say. I say you have to be the best at whatever you decide to do. If you decide to go into the arts, you have to be the best in the arts. If you decide to go into engineering, you have to be the best in engineering. One way or the other, you can financially, you can monetize your talents. So I think I think you just have to fully commit to be the best at what you do. Frankly, I have considered relocating to Nigeria. Nigeria is an untapped market, and I believe there's opportunity in various sectors. I believe in the sector of energy, renewable energy, there's a lot of opportunity there, and in transportation, not necessarily cars. I believe there's a lot of opportunity in the transportation field. There's the infrastructure. I think there are creative ways we can, as Nigerians, we can work on products that would help alleviate poverty and solve some of the transportation problems that we currently have. Look out for this space. Maybe soon, we'll be motivated enough to dabble into that. We're working on a couple of designs. Just playing with it. Maybe one will do a prototype one of these days. I think water transportation is key, and light rail. I think those two are key to alleviating the gridlock we currently have on the Nigerian roads. I think Nigeria is blessed with water. Speaking of Lagos, Lagos is blessed with water all around it. You can literally you can go by boat from Ikorodu to Ikoyi, for example. So instead of going through the main roads. So I think there's a lot that can be done there, in my opinion. But this is where technology comes into play. And I think with the design, a good, safe design, and the key, in my opinion, would be manufacturing in Nigeria, to to make it a win-win situation. You create jobs and you solve a need. And the other one I'll talk about is rail. Not necessarily trains. Imagine little pods that are elevated above ground. That are independent, whereby you could actually go to different areas. So you're not just tied to a train whereby you have to stop at every stop and move. So it's something we're thinking about and playing with right now. To be honest with you, I think, like I said earlier, I think your earlier years in high school or middle school, they actually determine the path you take in life, because they set the foundation for you. Everything from the way you write, from the way you speak, it determines everything. The knowledge you gain in high school will determine, okay, I'm going to go to this university. You get enlightened and okay, fine, there are options outside of what I see. So quality education is not just about what they teach you in class. It's about the connections you make while you're in school. It's about the opportunities that end up opening up to you, based on the experience that these teachers have. I'll tell you this much. One of the things I do at work is for my team, I tend to try to recruit more underrepresented people, like females. Those are the people I tend to want to focus more on, because in this business I'm in this field I'm in, we have to think outside of the box. So if you use the same old people who do the same thing, who copy paste everything, it's you get the same results. But to innovate, you need to get fresh ideas. And from what I've seen so far, I get a lot of very good ideas from this underrepresented groups. And as parents, I would encourage them to not force any path on their children. Find out what their passion is and support it wholeheartedly. That'll be it for me. Ultimately, to be honest with you, I used to tell people one of these days I'm gonna come to Nigeria and establish something. I actually want to do something that will impact lives in Nigeria. But along that technology route, so it might be in transportation, it might be in energy. I don't know yet. But I want to be remembered as one of the people who solved a big problem and elevated people from poverty. That's what I want to be remembered for. I think it's easy. I think if you want quality education in Nigeria, that's the place to be. You get the exposure, your kid will get the necessary exposure. And for example, my boarding house experience was wonderful. It's literally a home away from home, and while you're learning at the same time. So if you want a safe atmosphere for your children, I believe Green Springs is a choice you can't be mad at.